Don't do too much, lads.
Get it, lads, don't get away.
So you've got confidence way out. Like you haven't got that, don't worry.
Good afternoon and welcome to Wilderspool. The Stones Butter Championship game between Warrington and Leigh. As Warrington take the field, our side today is number 1, David Lyon, number 2, Joe Rapati, number 3, Paul Cullen, number 4, Brian Johnson, number 5, Mark Forster, number 6, John Woods, number 7, Martin Crompton, number 8, Neil Harmon, number 9, Mark Roskell, number 10, Mark Roberts, number 11, Gary Sanderson, number 12, Mike Gregory, number 13, Billy McGinty. The 2 substitutes for Warrington today are number 14, Barry Peters, and number 15, Kevin Tamati. The Leigh side today is number 1, Chris Johnson, number 2, Neil McCulloch, number 3, Paddy Tumavavi, number 4, Ian Jeffrey, number 5, Shane Oro, number 6, David Ruane, number 7, Phil Johnson, number 8, David Evans, number 9, Mick Dean, number 10, Tony Cottrell, number 11, Jeff Clark, number 12, Brian Dunn, number 13, Harry Pinner. And the Leigh substitutes today, number 14, Andrew Collier, and number 15, Mark Cooper. Today's referees, Mr. Jim Smith from Halifax, 2 touch judges, Mr. Fallon and Mr. Mean. As the teams change around, it'll be Warrington to start the game. Warrington fresh from the midweek victory at Wigan. We'll be looking to build on that performance today against Leigh, who are struggling at the bottom of the First Division. We'll be looking for points for survival. So John Woods gets the game underway, kicks it deep to David Ruane, brings the ball out. He's tackled by Mike Gregory and Mark Roberts. Dean to Johnson, to Evans. He's tackled by McGinty. Dean to Tumavavi coming through, but he's met by Mike Gregory and Mark Roberts. Dean attacks in half-back to Johnson. Johnson with the chip over the top, but it's well covered by Martin Crompton. So Warrington with their first possession of this afternoon. Woods to Foster. Foster is tackled by McCulloch and Tumavavi. Plays the ball. Roskell to Woods, to Gregory, to Roberts. Roberts slips the ball to Sanderson. Sanderson is tackled by Johnson, Clark and Dunn. Roskell. Woods on his own. He's tackled by Tony Cottrell. Mark Roskell attacked in half-back to Martin Crompton. Roskell on the run around. He's tackled by Evans. 5th tackle to Warrington. Crompton to Woods to McGinty. But McGinty's tackle on the 5th tackle, so that'll be a turnover to Leigh. Conditions not anywhere near ideal for any great deal of passing today. Dean to Pinner. Pinner to Clark. Clark is met by Roskell and Gregory. Dean attacks in half-back to Johnson. Ruane dummies, but it's well tackled by Gary Sanderson. Sanderson and Harmon both played for the Great Britain under-21 side yesterday. Pinner to Johnson. Johnson drops the ball. A knock on, rules Mr. Smith. There'll be a scrum down on the Leigh 25. Martin Crompton to feed the scrum. St Crompton kicks that ball off. So it's Martin Crompton to put the ball into the scrum. Foot up against Leigh. So the first penalty of the afternoon to Warrington. With David Lyons to try and put the ball into touch, which he does. So there'll be a tap penalty to Warrington. Mark Roskell to take the tap. Taps it to Foster. Foster takes place 10 yards from the Leigh line. Roskell attacked in halfback. On to Harmon. Harmon, he's well tackled by Clark. Roskell to Woods. Woods dummies, steps back inside. He's tackled by Evans, by Dunn. Mark Roskell goes to act in halfback. On to Mike Gregory. Gregory to McGinty, but McGinty drops the ball. It's picked up by David Ruane. Pinner, dummies, goes on his own from acting halfback. It's tackled by McGinty and Roskell. Dean to Cottrell. Cottrell runs straight into Gary Sanderson. Dean to Pinner. Pinner with the kick. Goes along the ground. Comes through to David Lyons. Lyons picks it up safely. Takes place just inside the Leigh half before being tackled by Jeffrey and by Dunn. Roskell to Crompton. To Rapati. Rapati coming in from the right wing. He's tackled by Evans and by Dean. Roskell to Crompton. Roskell on the run around. Chips through. Chases that. Johnson is covering. Falls on the ball safely. To Mavavi. Knocks off Harmon. It's taken by Roberts. Dean. On the blind side to Clark. Clark slips the ball away to Dean. To Mavavi. So he runs into Gregory. Johnson to Pinner. Pinner, long ball to Jeffrey. Jeffrey. He's well tackled by Cullen. Horo to Ruane. Ruane puts the ball deep into the Warrington half. With David Lyon to pick it up almost on his own try line. Lyon to run the ball out. Has Rapati with him. Passes on to Rapati. Rapati's well tackled by Ruane and by Dean. Roskell to Crompton. To Gregory. Gregory. Tackled by Tumavavi and by Evans. Roskell attacked in halfback. On to Roberts. Roberts, he's met by Cottrell and by Clark. Roskell to Crompton. Misses out Harmon to Woods. To McGinty. McGinty. McGinty loses the ball. It's picked up by Cullen. Cullen still going. It's tackled by Johnson just outside the Warrington 25. Woods. Back to Lyons. Lyons with the kick. It's picked up by McCulloch. Backwards says the referee, and McCulloch has gone round Foster. McCulloch down this right wing, but he's well chased by Mark Foster. Good recovery there from Foster after McCulloch had initially gone round him. Tumavavi, dummies. Oh, and Clark has flattened Neil Harmon there for no apparent reason. The touch judge comes on to the referee, Mr. Smith. "10 minutes in the sin bin. against Jeff Clark of Leigh. I think he's very lucky to get just 10 minutes there. He's also sent Neil Harmon to the sin bin as well. There's some confusion here as Neil Harmon goes off the field. Kevin Tamati comes on. But I think the referee has sent Neil Harmon to the sin bin, so that will mean Kevin Tamati can't come on for 10 minutes. And Leigh win the scrum, so it's Phil Johnson. Dean on the blind side. It's tackled by Foster. Cottrell. He's tackled by Gregory. Dean to Johnson. Johnson on the run around with Pinner. Johnson, well, looks forward, it's spotted by Mr. Smith. There's a forward pass. I think Warrington can feel a little hard done to though, Neil Harmon being sent to the sin bin. There's a blatant punch by Jeff Clark on Neil Harmon, he's flattened him. It would appear that Neil Harmon will take no further part in the game. Gregory from Acton halfback. Gregory plays the ball to Roskell, to Woods, out wide to McGinty. McGinty is tackled by Dunn and by Pinner. Roskell to Roberts. Roberts takes play just inside the Leigh half. Roskell to Woods, to Crompton, Crompton to Gregory. Gregory back inside to Crompton, Crompton to Cullen. Cullen straightens up. He's tackled by Brian Dunn. Fifth tackle to Warrington. Martin Crompton up the blind side, puts the ball safely into touch. So it'll be a scrum down with Leigh to put the ball in. Phil Johnson to feed the scrum. And Leigh come up with the ball. Ruane. Dummies to Johnson. Chris Johnson. Goes back inside and is finally tackled by Mark Roskell. Dean to Evans. Evans still going. It's finally pulled down by Mark Roskell. Dean. It's offside against Mark Roberts. So it's a penalty to Leigh just inside the Warrington half. Chris Johnson to try and put the ball into touch. Which he does safely. So it'll be Mick Dean to tap the ball just outside the Warrington 25. Taps it and goes on his own. It's tackled by Gary Sanderson and by Mark Roskell. Johnson to Dunn. Dunn takes the ball up. He's met by Mark Roberts and Mike Gregory. Dean to Evans. Evans. Again Gregory and Roberts doing the tackling. Dean to Johnson. Johnson to Pinner. Pinner inside to Cottrell. Cottrell going through. Gets the ball away to Ruane. Ruane drops it and it's kicked on by Johnson. So knock on rules Mr. Smith. Be a scrum down 10 yards from the Warrington line. Martin Crompton to feed the scrum. Straight out rules Mr. Smith. Gary Sanderson has moved up to prop for Warrington. And foot up against Mick Dean, rules Mr. Smith, so it's a penalty to Warrington. David Lyons puts the ball safely into touch. Sanderson. Gary Sanderson drives the ball just inside the Warrington half. Roskell to Gregory, to Crompton, to Woods, Woods to Roberts. Roberts is tackled by Ruane, by Pinner and by Dunn. Roskell to Woods. Woods to Cullen. Cullen comes back inside. He's tackled by Jeffrey. Woods to Gregory, Gregory to Crompton. Crompton on his own. Crompton makes a break. It's just tackled by Ian Jeffrey. Play inside the Leigh half now. Woods on his own. Fifth tackle to Warrington. Gary Sanderson attacked in half back. To Gregory. Gregory. The kick to touch. Foster following up quickly. It's picked up by McCulloch. And McCulloch gets round Foster. But he's well tackled by Brian Johnson. Johnson. Tumavavi. He's well tackled by Gary Sanderson. Dean to Johnson, to Evans. Evans, he's tackled by Robertson, by Gregory. Dean misses out Phil Johnson to Harry Pinner. Pinner, oh, almost an interception from John Woods. I thought for 1 minute there Mr. Smith was going to let play go. He's ruled that it was a knock-on. There'll be a scrum down with Phil Johnson to put the ball in for Leigh. Very nearly a John Woods interception there. Johnson puts the ball in. Passes it on to his namesake Chris Johnson. He's well covered by David Lyon, the Warrington fullback. To Mavavi from acting halfback. It's again David Lyon doing the tackling. Dean to Johnson. Johnson to Pinner. Pinner to Ruane. Ruane steps inside and passes the ball to Mike Gregory. So Warrington in a very good attacking position now. Cullen to Woods. Woods, long ball to McGinty standing out wide. McGinty through the gap. McGinty's going for the line. He's well covered by Johnson and slides him into touch. For a moment there it looked as though Billy McGinty was going to take that ball through the gap. It was well covered by the Leigh fullback Chris Johnson, who slid him fully 5 yards into touch there. So it's a scrum down with Phil Johnson to feed the scrum again. That's a penalty against Warrington. Foot up, Mark Roskell, Warrington hooker. So it's Chris Johnson to attempt to put the ball into touch, which he safely does. So Mick Dean to tap the ball just outside his own 25. This is out to Mavavi to Evans. Evans, he's met by Gary Sanderson, Mark Roberts and Mark Roskell. Dean to Johnson. Johnson to Ruane. Ruane to Jeffrey. Jeffrey goes past Cullen. He's tackled by John Woods on the halfway line. Plays the ball to Ruane. Ruane to Johnson. On to Chris Johnson. To Pinner. Pinner short ball to Dunn. Dunn's through the gap. He's got Dean inside. Dean takes it. It's well tackled by David Lyons. Leigh beginning to move the ball with great effect now. Johnson to Phil Johnson. Long ball to Ian Jeffrey. Jeffrey steps back inside. He's met by John Woods and by Paul Cullen. Play just inside the Warrington 25. Phil Johnson to Tumavarvi. Tumavarvi's through the gap. Tumavarvi going for the line, just couldn't slip the ball away. 5th tackle to Leigh. Dean to Pinner. Pinner chips the ball through. Joe Raparti's covering for Warrington and brings it away safely. The meantime, Kevin Tamati for Warrington and Jeff Clark for Leigh have come back onto the field. Tamati gets involved straight away. Roskell to Sanderson. Sanderson takes play to the Warrington 25. Woods to Gregory. Gregory. He's tackled by David Ruane. Billy McGinty goes to acting halfback. Goes on his own. Throws a loose pass out there. Martin Crompton picks it up. He's tackled by Brian Dunn. And it's the 6th tackle to Warrington. Back to David Lyons. Lyons with the kick downfield. Fielded safely by Chris Johnson. Takes play back inside the Warrington half. He's met with a solid tackle from Mark Roberts. Dean from acting halfback. He's met by Kevin Tamati. Phil Johnson goes to acting halfback. To Pinner. Pinner, dummies. Turns back and gets the ball to Evans. To Cottrell. Cottrell is tackled by Tamati and by Roberts. Dean to Pinner. Pinner to Johnson. Johnson. Chris Johnson to play the ball. On to Jeff Clark. To Phil Johnson. To Harry Pinner. Pinner steps back inside. Throws the ball inside to Brian Dunn. Brian Dunn. He's tackled by Mike Gregory and by Martin Crompton. Dean once again goes on his own. Kicks the ball through, but it's well covered by David Lyons. Lyons loses the ball. It's picked up by Tumavarvi. So Leigh once again on the attack with 6 more tackles. Dean to Ruane. Ruane to Johnson. Johnson to Pinner. Pinner dummies. Gets the ball back to Ruane. Ruane tackled by Roskell and by Roberts. Clark goes on his own. He's tackled by McGinty. Dean to Ruane. Ruane, dummies, comes back this way. On to Evans. Evans gets the ball away to Phil Johnson. Johnson goes on his own now, steps outside. Manages to slip the ball to McCulloch. And McCulloch is tackled by Johnson and by Foster. Dean to Johnson. To Clark. Clark. He's tackled by McGinty and by Roberts. Last tackle. Johnson. No, misses out Johnson to Pinner. Pinner chips the ball through. But it's covered again well by Joe Raparti. Joe Raparti makes a good 10 yards before being tackled by Brian Dunn. Plays the ball to Cullen. Cullen on to Sanderson. Sanderson makes the break. Good break there from Gary Sanderson. Takes play outside the Warrington 25. Crompton dummies. Crompton on his own now. 2 good breaks there from Gary Sanderson and from Martin Crompton. Takes play up to the halfway line. Mike Gregory. He's tackled by Clark and by Evans. Both sides really not letting the conditions affect the way that they get the ball moving at all. Not afraid to throw the ball about. Roskell to Woods. Woods puts the kick towards that far corner. It's taken by Oro. Shane Oro is met by Mark Roberts and by John Woods. Dean to Evans. Evans almost losing the ball there. Dean to Johnson. Johnson to Pinner. Pinner, short ball to Dunn. Dunn away to Jeffrey. Jeffrey inside to Oro. But he's well met by Paul Cullen. It's Harry Pinner has twice picked Brian Dunn out wide now, and Dunn has gone into the gap both times. Ruane, he's tackled by Roberts. Dean to Johnson, Johnson to Pinner. Pinner steps back inside, short ball to Cottrell. Cottrell gets the ball away to Dean. Dean turns one way, then the other. Back to Tumavavi. He's met by Billy McGinty. And it's 6th tackle to Leigh now. Dean to Phil Johnson. Johnson tries to put the kick, which he does safely into this near corner. 5 yards from the Warrington try line. But twice now Harry Pinner has picked Brian Dunn up, put him away into the gap, and Dunn has made good effect of it both times. With Martin Crompton to feed the scrum. Comes up with it safely, and it's offside against Phil Johnson. Will be David Lyons to try and relieve some of the pressure. Puts the ball safely into touch. We Mark Roskell to tap the ball to Tamati. Tamati is tackled by Clark and by Evans. Roskell to Gregory. Gregory dummies, gives it to Crompton. Crompton. Roskell to Woods. Woods to Gregory. Gregory is well met by Johnson and loses the ball. It's picked up by Jeffrey, so once again Leigh are back in possession. Horo takes play inside the Warrington half. He's tackled by Roskell and by Gregory. Dean. Johnson to Pinner. Pinner to Dunn. Again Dunn through the gap. It's tackled by Gary Sanderson and by Billy McGinty. Dean to Johnson. Johnson to Pinner. Pinner, long ball to Jeffrey. Jeffrey steps inside Cullen. It's tackled by Woods. Evans. Evans goes through the tackle of Roberts. Still going David Evans. Finally brought down by John Woods and by Mike Gregory. 6th tackle to Leigh. Dean. Back to Chris Johnson. The drop goal attempt. It's very difficult in these conditions. Lyons. He's tackled by Tumavavi and by McCulloch. Lyons plays the ball to Foster. Foster, he's tackled by Tumavavi. Roskell to Sanderson. Warrington seem to have lost the way slightly. It's a penalty against Harry Pinner for offside. Once again a chance to relieve the pressure. But Warrington just seem to have lost the way slightly. Leigh looking the more enterprising of the two sides at the moment. David Lyons with the kick to touch. Goes in safely. Mark Roskell to tap the ball. On to Joe Rapati. Rapati takes play inside the Leigh half. Roskell, a loose pass there, picked up by Sanderson. Sanderson steps back inside. He's tackled by Clark. John Woods goes into acting halfback. On to Mike Gregory. Woods on the run around. Woods dummies. Woods couldn't quite get the ball away to Cullen. McGinty to Gregory. Gregory goes around Tamati. Tamati slips the ball away to Gregory. It looks suspiciously forward. Gregory steps back inside. He had Mark Roskell on the outside. Gets the ball to Roberts. Roberts drops it, and it's Tumavavi who comes away with it now. Tumavavi is finally tackled by John Woods. But Mike Gregory had Mark Roskell on the outside there. So he elected to come back the other way. And it's offside against Mike Gregory. So it's a penalty to Leigh. Chris Johnson puts the ball safely into touch. It bounced in field actually, but it's eventually got into touch. So Dean to Johnson. Johnson to Cottrell. Cottrell. It's tackled by Mike Gregory and by Mark Roberts. Dean to Dunn. Dunn. It's tackled by Kevin Tamati. It's 10 yards from the Warrington try line now. Leigh once again applying the pressure. Johnson to Evans. Evans. Johnson gets the ball to Clark. Clark in the gap. Clark for the try line to Jeffrey. Jeffrey over the line for a try. Jeff Clark came strongly on the burst there through the gap. Looks as though he may have gone all the way on his own as he slipped the ball to Ian Jeffrey. And it's Jeffrey that's gone over for the try and the first score of the afternoon to Leigh. Having played almost 30 minutes in the first half. It was a plan move. Evans took the ball up. He slipped the ball to Johnson. Johnson got the ball away to Clark. Clark went storming through the gap. Looked as though he was going for the line himself. Got the ball away to Ian Jeffrey, who went over despite the tackle of Joe Rapati. So it's Leigh who move into the lead, 4-0 with the conversion attempt from Chris Johnson to come. Successful. So having played 30 minutes of the first half, it's Warrington 0, Leigh 6. And Leigh are certainly looking the more enterprising of the two teams. Warrington seems to be lacking somewhat in ideas when they're on the attack. So it's John Woods restarts the game. Ruane. Ruane still going. It's finally tackled by Mike Gregory and Mark Roskell. Dean to Evans. Evans. Gregory once again does the tackling. Dean to Johnson. Johnson to Cottrell. Cottrell steps back inside. Gets the ball away to Harry Pinner. Pinner to Chris Johnson. Johnson steps back inside. Knocks off McGinty. It's finally tackled by Mike Gregory and Kevin Tamati. It's taking play to outside the Leigh 25. Dean to Johnson. Johnson to Pinner. Pinner dummies. Gets it back to Johnson. Johnson. Johnson knocks off Mike Gregory. It's the ball away to Dean. He's tackled by Billy McGinty. Ruane. Ruane with the kick. Straight to David Lyons. Lyons picks it up safely. Beats the tackle of Ruane, but he's finally brought down by Jeff Clark. Roskell to Crompton to Sanderson. Sanderson. He's tackled by Cottrell. Roskell to McGinty. McGinty's tackled by Phil Johnson and by Jeff Clark. Crompton to Gregory. Warrington. Woods onto Roberts now. Roberts in some space. Roberts tries to get the ball inside to Kevin Tamati, but it's knocked down by Mick Dean. So once again Leigh back in possession. I was just about to say Warrington are managing to get the ball out wide, but the players seem to be all taking it standing still. Not running onto the ball like Jeff Clark and Brian Dunn of Leigh are. And I think they've got to start lying deeper and running onto the ball from deep. They're going to make any impression on this Leigh defence. Evans plays the ball to Dean. Dean to Johnson. To Oro. Coming in from the left wing. Just on the Leigh 25. Dean. Back to Phil Johnson. With the kick. Puts it high. It's David Lyons. Fields it safely. Goes across field. Steps inside. Paddy to Mavavi. Comes back outside. Gets the ball away to Johnson. Johnson tries to get the ball back inside. It's touched by the Leigh player, so it's 6 more tackles to Warrington. As David Lyons comes up with the ball. Johnson to Crompton. Crompton throws a wild pass out there to Woods, but Woods retrieves it well. So he's tackled by Harry Pinner and by David Evans. Gregory. Sanderson takes play up to the halfway line. Roskell to Woods with the kick for the far touchline. It goes safely into touch. So it's a scrum down. It'll be Phil Johnson to feed the scrum. Mr. Smith having a few problems with the scrum on the far side there. So Johnson puts the ball in. And it's Leigh in possession again. Dean to Dunn. He's well tackled by Gary Sanderson. Johnson to Pinner. Pinner gets the ball away to Oro. Oro takes on McGinty and he's past McGinty. Comes to Crompton. He's well tackled by Martin Crompton and put into touch. Just 5 minutes to half time now. Warrington 0, Leigh 6. It's Warrington never really looking like scoring throughout this first half. So Crompton puts the ball in and it's a penalty against Mick Dean of Leigh for foot up. So can Warrington mount a big effort now to try and get some points on the board before half time. Woods to tap the ball. It's offside. Once again, Woods to tap the ball to Roskell, to Crompton. Woods on the run around. Misses out Gregory to Roberts out wide. Roberts to Cullen. Cullen to Johnson. But he's well tackled by McCulloch, just 2 yards short of the Leigh try line. Ryan Johnson to Paul Cullen, to John Woods. Woods knocks on. And a golden opportunity for Warrington has gone begging there. Ryan Johnson just couldn't manage to slip the ball away to Mark Foster there, otherwise it would have been a try for Mark Foster in the corner. So was the ball came back and there was a knock on. So to scrum down with Phil Johnson to put the ball in. Once again, Mr. Smith having problems. He calls the two hookers out of the scrum. Let's have a word with them. And it's a penalty to Warrington. Loose arm rules Mr. Smith. So again, Warrington about 15 yards from the Leigh try line now. Tamati. He's tackled by Tony Cottle and by Jeff Clark. Roskell to Woods. Woods misses out Gregory to Sanderson. He's tackled by Pinner and by Brian Dunn. Roskell switches it to Mike Gregory. Short ball to Kevin Tamati. He's well tackled by David Evans and by Paddy Tumavave. Gregory to Crompton. He's tackled by Tumavave but gets the ball away to Roberts, who gets it onto Woods. Woods still going. Woods tackled by Cottrell, Dunn and Johnson. Gary Sanderson attacked in half-back. To Gregory. Gregory chips it through. Gregory gets the ball back and it's come off the Leigh player, so it'll be 6 more tackles to Warrington. Woods to Crompton. Dummies goes back inside. Dummies again, gets the ball away to Rapati. Rapati just couldn't slip the ball away to Roberts. Just a yard from the Leigh try line. Roberts. It's kicked through by Crompton. The ball goes dead, so it'll be a tap to Leigh on the 25-yard line. Just under 2 minutes to half time. There's a golden opportunity there for Warrington. Brian Dunn drives the ball 5 yards up before he's tackled by Mark Roberts. Dean to Johnson. Johnson to Pinner. Pinner goes on his own, but gets the ball away to Clark. Clark gets the ball away to Ruane. Ruane to Dean. Dean on his own. Slips it inside to Jeffrey. Jeffrey drops it. Picks it up again. The ball goes backwards, rules Mr. Smith. Dean to Johnson. Johnson kicks the ball to that far touch line, which goes into touch just inside the Warrington 25. And it's a scrum down just inside the Warrington 25-yard line. Warrington to put the ball in as we enter the last minute of this first half. Crompton to Woods. Woods, dummies. He's tackled by Phil Johnson. Lyons to Crompton to McGinty. McGinty straightens up. He's tackled by Harry Pinner and by Ian Jeffrey. Crompton. The run around with Tamati. He's tackled by Tony Cottrell and by Brian Dunn. Roskell to Sanderson. Sanderson. He's tackled by Harry Pinner and by Jeff Clark. Warrington just seems to be content to drive the ball up at this moment in time. Mark Roberts is tackled by Mick Dean. Last tackle, John Woods. It's the ball down to the Leigh 25, but it's fielded safely by Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson. He's tackled by Kevin Tamati. Leigh should be probably just content to use the tackles up to half time. Brian Dunn loses the ball, and it's picked up by Sanderson. Crompton. Dummies. Martin Crompton gets the ball to Gary Sanderson. Sanderson, sidestep. It's tackled by Brian Dunn. And it's a penalty. Against Brian Dunn. Thumping Gary Sanderson in the tackle there. So the chance for David Lyons to put the ball into the corner here, which he does. So Warrington, is this their last chance of the first half to get some points on the board? Roskell to Tamati. Tamati drives the ball up. 5 yards from the Leigh try line. Roskell to Crompton. Crompton to Woods. Woods goes back inside. John Woods still going. It's tackled by Cottrell. Again, 5 yards from the Leigh try line. Martin Crompton out to Mike Gregory. Gregory steps back inside. Gregory tries to get the ball away to Cullen, but loses it in the tackle, and it's Jeff Clark who will come up with the ball for Leigh. Johnson on his own from acting halfback. It's tackled by Gary Sanderson. Dean. Cottrell. Cottrell. Tumavavi. He's tackled by Gary Sanderson. Gary Sanderson doing a tremendous tackling stint in this first half, despite the fact that he played yesterday for the Great Britain under-21s. So it's last tackle to Leigh. McCulloch to Johnson. Johnson with the chip. To McCulloch. McCulloch now. McCulloch gets the ball away to Tumavavi. Tumavavi throws the ball back to Johnson, but he comes to Woods now. John Woods slips and is tackled by Chris Johnson. Gregory to Crompton. Crompton to McGinty. McGinty straightens up. And there goes a half-time hooter. The half-time score, Warrington 0, Leigh 6. And that's a fair reflection on this first half. Warrington looking to be lacking in ideas somewhat when they're on the attack. Leigh using Harry Pinner and Phil Johnson to set up many of their attacks with Jeff Clark And Brian Dunn running out wide and half. Both teams having changed the jerseys. I shouldn't imagine they'll stay very clean for much longer. Neither side having made a substitution. It's half time. Kevin Tamati already having come on in the first half for Neil Harmon. It'll be Phil Johnson who will start the second half. His team leading 6-0. Billy McGinty takes it well. McGinty knocks Johnson off, but he's tackled by Pinner. Gregory takes play outside his own 25. He's met by a posse of Leigh players. Roskell to Crompton to Woods to Roberts running out wide. Roberts through the gap now. Roberts still going, takes play inside the Leigh half. Just slips as he came back inside. It's tackled by Evans. Roskell to Woods runs around Crompton. Woods chips through. Rapati misses it and the ball goes into touch. It's a good break there from Mark Roberts. That shows a difference if the Warrington players lie deep and run onto the ball, run into the gaps. So Johnson puts the ball in, comes away up the blind side. She's tackled by Mike Gregory. Pinner, dummies, goes on his own. She's tackled by McGinty and by Gregory. Dean to Cottrell. He's met by Kevin Tamati. Dean. Dummies to Evans, goes on his own. Just tackled by Mike Gregory and loses the ball. Manages to get it back. There'll be a scrum down with Martin Crompton to feed the scrum. A bit of childishness there from Mick Dean, throwing the ball away. Crompton, tackled by Pinner. Gregory, runs round Woods. Gregory, is tackled by Brian Dunn. So Warrington applying a bit of early pressure here. The start of the second half. Woods to McGinty. He's well tackled by Jeff Clark. Mark Roskell onto Kevin Tamati. Tamati loses the ball. And it's picked up by Phil Johnson. To Mavavi. Onto Evans. Dean to Johnson. Johnson to Pinner. Pinner to Cottrell. Cottrell steps back inside. So he's well tackled by Mark Robertson by Billy McGinty. Johnson to Pinner. Pinner inside to Chris Johnson. Back to Phil Johnson. So he's tackled by Mark Roberts. Mick Dean to Chris Johnson. The kick to that far touchline. David Lyons manages to keep it in play. Since Neil McCulloch was following up very quick there. And it's offside against Jeff Clark, so it'll be a penalty to Warrington. So David Lyons puts the ball safely into touch. Roskell to Sanderson. Sanderson up to the Leigh 25-yard line. Sanderson plays the ball to Roskell to Crompton. Woods misses out Gregory to McGinty. McGinty, he's well tackled by Harry Pinner. John Woods to Mike Gregory. Gregory tackled by Clark and by Jeffrey. Roskell to Woods. Woods to Roberts. Roberts now in some space. Roberts with the full-back to beat. Gets it inside to Woods. The ball went forward there from Mark Roberts. So it's scrum down. Roberts appears to have hurt himself there. Jim Smith stops the clock to allow the Warrington physio to come on and attend to Mark Roberts. It appears that he's perhaps twisted his ankle. So Mark Roberts gets up, he's hobbling quite badly. And Leigh come away with the ball. Ruane steps inside McGinty now. Ruane, he's got some room in which to run, but he's well tackled by Paul Cullen. Jeffrey to Pinner. Pinner. Short ball to Dunn. Dunn knocks off the tackle of McGinty. Strong running again there from Brian Dunn. Dean to Ruane. Ruane to Pinner. Pinner dummies. He's tackled by McGinty and by Gregory. Johnson to Chris Johnson. Dummies inside. Gets the ball away, tries to get it inside to Oro, but it's picked up by Paul Cullen. Cullen tries to step inside Phil Johnson, but he's tackled by him. Crompton to Rapati. Rapati comes in from the right wing. Rapati tackled by Evans and by Cottrell. Crompton's tackled by Evans. Has he got in a bit of a tangle with Mark Roskell? Woods to Gregory. Once again Warrington taking the ball, standing still, not coming from any depth. Gregory plays the ball to Roskell. To McGinty. McGinty. It's tackled by Clark. Sixth tackle to Warrington. Gregory to Woods. Woods misses it to Sanderson. Sanderson is tackled, so it'll be the turnover to Leigh. Cottrell plays it to Dean. Dean goes on his own from acting halfback. He's tackled by Gary Sanderson, Mark Roskell and Martin Crompton. Johnson runs round Pinner. Pinner dummies, gets it to Johnson. Johnson gets it away quickly to Tumavarvi. Tumavarvi almost intercepted by Mike Gregory, but he hands it on to Kevin Tamati. So Warrington back in possession. Roskell to Gregory. Gregory to Crompton. Crompton misses out Roberts, throws it a bit wild there. Cullen picks it up. So he's tackled by Jeffrey. Woods to Rapati. Rapati is tackled by Mick Dean. Roskell to Crompton. Crompton on the run round. It has to turn back inside because once again there's no depth on the outside of Martin Crompton as he did that run round. Michael Gregory. Short ball to Tamati. Tamati gets the ball away to Gregory now. Gregory has got Johnson inside him and Foster comes inside. Gregory, dummy toe, he tried to dummy, gets it out to Brian Johnson. Johnson's tackled into touch. Mike Gregory tried to dummy the fullback there, he only had to give it to Mark Foster and it was a certain try for Foster. I don't know what was going through Mike Gregory's head then, because there was no cover inside who could have taken Foster at all. He committed the full back, he just had to hand the ball on, and Foster was in the corner. As it is, it's a penalty against Martin Crompton for offside at the scrum. So what a let off for Leigh there. All the hard work had been done by Kevin Tamati, who came onto the short ball and onto Mike Gregory. Gregory took the ball to 5 yards from the Leigh try line. Just had to give it inside to Mark Foster, and it was a certain 4 points. Instead it's Leigh who come away with the ball. Cottrell is driven back by Gary Sanderson and by Mark Roberts. Johnson, dummies to Evans, Pinner. Out to Dunn. Dunn tackled by Mike Gregory. Ruane, Evans. Evans is tackled by Roskell and by McGinty. Dean to Ruane. Ruane with the kick for this near touch line. Rapati's back covering with David Lyons. Joe Rapati. He's tackled by Ian Jeffrey. Roskell to Cullen. Cullen tackled by Pinner and by Johnson. Brian Johnson attacked in half-back to Kevin Tamati. Tamati, short ball to Foster. Foster, well tackled by Tamavavi. Foster plays it to himself, but he's tackled by Neil McCulloch. Roskell. And offside at the play of the ball there against Neil McCulloch. With David Lyons to try and put the ball into touch. It goes into touch, but it goes in off the foot of Chris Johnson, the Leigh full back, so it'll be a scrum down instead of the expected tap to Warrington. Warrington making far too many basic errors. Foot up against Mick Dean, so Warrington have the ball anyway. Mark Roskell to tap the ball to Kevin Tamati. Tamati. He's tackled by Brian Dunn and by Harry Pinner. 10 yards from the Leigh try line now. Roskell to McGinty. McGinty tackled by Pinner and by Clark. Roskell to Roberts on the switch. Roberts going for the try line. Roberts just brought down by Tony Cottrell. Just a yard from the Leigh try line. Roberts plays it to himself. And it's a try to Mark Roberts. Mark Roberts was slow and deliberate getting up at the acting half-back there. He got up, kicked the ball through the Leigh cover. Tony Cottrell tried to get back to get to the ball first, but it was Roberts who got there before him. And Warrington are back in the game. John Woods with the conversion, which is safely through the post. So there's 13 minutes of the second half gone now, and the scores are level at 6-all. It'll be Phil Johnson to restart the game. Johnson kicks the ball deep. McGinty stops it with his leg, picks it up. He's met solidly by David Evans. Gregory. He's tackled by David Ruane. Roskell to Tamati. Tamati takes play up to the 25-yard line before being tackled by Pinner and by Jeffrey. Roskell to Gregory. Tackled by Brian Dunn. Roskell back to David Lyons. Lyons with the kick. It's taken by Tumavavi. Gets the ball away to McCulloch. McCulloch slips. It's tackled by Mark Foster and Brian Johnson. Chris Johnson takes play just inside the Warrington half before being tackled by Kevin Tamati and by Billy McGinty. Mick Dean goes to acting halfback. To Ruane. Ruane to Pinner. Pinner to Dunn. Dunn is held up by Mike Gregory and assisted by Mark Roskell. Dean to Ruane. Ruane to Pinner. Pinner comes back this way. Pinner short ball to Johnson. Johnson gets the ball away to Clark. Clark shrugs off the tackle of Roskell. Clark still going, but he's well covered by Mark Roberts. Johnson, Pinner to Ruane. Ruane steps back inside. Just meets the Warrington cover, gets it away to Dean. Dean, he's tackled by Woods and by McGinty. Last tackle to Leigh. To Johnson. Johnson to touch and puts it in safely, just 5 yards from the Warrington try line. So it's a scrum down 5 yards from the Warrington try line. Martin Crompton to feed the scrum. Important one for Warrington to win, which he does. Gregory. Good driving clearance there from Mike Gregory. Roskell to Woods. Woods to McGinty. McGinty looks to pass, gets the ball away to Johnson now, and Johnson on to Cullen. Cullen now with some space. Cullen has got Lyons inside him. Cullen gets it to Lyons. Lyons. He's tackled by Chris Johnson. But Warrington in a good attacking position now. Cullen to Woods. Woods to Roskell. Roskell to Crompton. Crompton steps back inside. Gets the ball back to Roberts. Roberts. Tackled by Chris Johnson. Some enterprising play there from Warrington on their own try line. Tamati. There's a sixth tackle to Warrington now. Woods. Woods with the up and under. To McCulloch, takes it safely. Well taken there by Neil McCulloch. Ruane. Tackled by Mark Roskell and by Billy McGinty. Dean to Johnson. Johnson to Pinner. Pinner steps back inside. Still going, Harry Pinner. Finally tackled by Kevin Tamati. Dean to Cottrell. Cottrell slips. Throws out a long ball to Jeffrey. Jeffrey comes back inside. Jeffrey now. Jeffrey in some space. And Jeffrey's got some space. Comes across there. Gets the ball to Tumavavi. Tumavavi to Woods. Gets the ball inside to McCulloch. Brilliantly taken by McCulloch. He's well tackled by David Lyons. Some brilliant football there from Leigh through Ian Jeffrey, Paddy Tumavavi and Neil McCulloch. Johnson goes inside now. Johnson. Tackled by David Lyons and by Brian Johnson. Takes play inside the Warrington 25. Sixth tackle to Leigh. Goes back to Ruane. Ruane with the up and under. Dean went for it, he missed it, and it's picked up by Paul Cullen. So both teams making some really excellent breaks there from deep inside their own half. Sanderson plays it to Roskell. Roskell to Gregory. Gregory on to Tamati. Tamati gets it away to Woods. Woods looks to pass it, but he's taken by Phil Johnson. Woods to Roskell. Roskell to Crompton. Crompton steps back inside. Crompton tries to get away to Gregory. Ball gets held up in the mud and Gregory is able to get onto it. Roskell to Woods. Woods out wide to Tamati. Tamati He's tackled by Clark and Timavavi, his fellow countryman. Foster to Woods. Woods onto Lyon. Lyon with lots of time. It's the ball over to this near touchline. It's taken well by Shane Oro. Oro now. It's Oro almost through the gap. It's finally tackled by Gary Sanderson. Jeffrey to Evans. Evans still going. Fine driving run there from number 8 David Evans. Johnson to Cottrell. Cottrell running onto the ball. Cottrell gets the ball away to Johnson. Ball goes backwards and he's dropped on by David Evans. Dean to Johnson. Johnson run around with Pinner. And it's an interception by John Woods now. John Woods is being chased by Timavavi. He's being chased by McCulloch. They're not going to catch him. And John Woods scores in the corner. Phil Johnson did a run around with Harry Pinner. He got the ball back. He tried to get the ball out wide to Paddy Timavavi. And John Woods read the situation so well. He was there waiting for the pass. He took it and there was no stopping him. So John Woods puts Warrington into the lead. The score 10 points to 6 with a conversion to follow. Goes wide of the post, so I've played 20 minutes now, midway through the second half, and it's Warrington 10, Leigh 6. And Leigh, who were putting a lot of pressure on there on the Warrington line. Johnson tried to get his outside backs moving, but the ball was intercepted by John Woods, who ran fully 60-65 yards to score in the far corner. So it's Billy McGinty. It's tackled by Clark and by Cottrell and by Dean. Roskell to Gregory. Gregory is almost making the half break. Gregory drops the ball, so it'll be a scrum down. Leigh to put the ball in. Phil Johnson comes away with it, runs around David Ruane. Ruane gets the ball away to Pinner. Pinner goes one way, then the other, gets it to Jeffrey. Jeffrey steps back inside. It's finally tackled by Paul Cullen and John Woods. Ruane. Long ball out to Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson, dummies, goes on his own. Couldn't quite get the ball away, Chris Johnson. Dean. Up the blind side to Timavavi. Timavavi gets the ball to Clark. Clark is tackled by Brian Johnson. Dean to Johnson. To Evans. Evans to Dunn. Dunn well tackled by Gary Sanderson and by Mike Gregory. Johnson comes around Pinner again. Pinner goes back the other way. Pinner still going. Gets the ball to Evans. Crompton almost getting the interception, kicks on, it's picked up by Oro. Shane Oro now runs around Paul Cullen, straightens up. Oro still going, it's tackled by Mark Roskell. Was it 6 more tackles to Leigh? Timavavi on his own from acting halfback, he's tackled by Sanderson and by Roskell. Dean to Johnson, Johnson to Clark. Clark takes play up to the Warrington 25 before finally being tackled by McGinty and by Gregory. Dean to Phil Johnson, once again on the run around with Pinner. Pinner dummies to Johnson, gives it to Cottrell on the burst. Pinner, Harry Pinner once again getting more and more involved in the match now. Dave Ruane steps back inside, still going Ruane, gets the ball away to Phil Johnson. Johnson out to Brian Dunn. Brian Dunn, he's tackled by Kevin Tamati and by Mark Roberts. 6 tackle to Leigh. Mick Dean puts up the up and under. Over to Mark Foster, to David Lyons. But Neil McCulloch is adjudged to be offside at the kick. It's very fortunate for Warrington as Leigh would have been back in possession there with a drop out from under the post by Warrington. As it is, David Lyons puts the ball safely into touch. Warrington on their own 25 with Mark Roskell. And the ball's lost once again by Mike Gregory. A heavy tackle from David Evans, forcing Gregory to lose the ball. Pinner to Dunn. Dunn running out wide. Dunn inside, but it's almost picked up by Martin Crompton. The ball is knocked on. A scrum down with Phil Johnson to feed the scrum. And Leigh come again with the ball. Chris Johnson, dummies, steps back inside. Tries to get the ball away to Jeff Clark. Clark knocked over by Crompton but recovers and gets up, runs straight at John Woods. It's tackled by Woods and by Michael Gregory. Dean, Johnson to Pinner, dummies, gets the ball away to Ruane still going, it's finally brought down by Kevin Tamati and by Paul Cullen, just outside the Warrington 25. Dean up the blind side to Chris Johnson, dummies, the ball comes through, Dean falls on it, he's tackled by Paul Cullen and slides into touch. So it'll be a scrum down. Martin Crompton to put the ball into the scrum. And Phil Johnson is offside at the scrum. So it's a penalty to Warrington. Have just under a quarter of an hour to go. The second half. Still anybody's game at the moment. David Lyons once again puts the ball safely into touch. Roskell onto Sanderson. He's tackled by Brian Dunn and by Mick Dean. And the ball's pinched there by Phil Johnson, who gets it away to Brian Dunn. Dunn still going, Brian Dunn still going, he's going for the line. He's finally tackled by David Lyons, but he's took place at 5 yards inside the Warrington 25. Dean to Johnson to Ruane misses out Cottrell to Pinner to Tumavarvi still going. Finally tackled by Mike Gregory and by Brian Johnson. So Leigh once again on the attack. Pinner gets the ball away to Jeffrey gets it to Horo goes back inside. So he's tackled by by Sanderson, Cullen and Roskell. Dean goes on his own. So he's met by Kevin Tamati. Horo to Johnson once again on the run around with Pinner into the gap, gets the ball away, it's picked up, just couldn't quite hold it, Brian Dunn. But Harry Pinner getting more and more involved, and it spells danger every time he gets the ball. It's a scrum down. Martin Crompton to feed the scrum, 10 yards from the Warrington try line. Crompton takes the ball away. He's met by Cottrell and by Clark. McGinty from acting halfback. He's tackled by Dunn and by Clark. Roskell onto Tamati. He's met strongly by Mick Dean. Warrington not making any headway on these tries away from their own try line. Woods to Cullen. Cullen. John Woods attacked in half-back. It's the ball to Mark Roberts. Roberts. He's met by Tony Cottrell and by David Ruane. 6 tackle to Warrington. Roskell to Woods to Lyons. Lyons. Hurried kick there from David Lyons. Comes through to McCulloch. McCulloch. Offside, cry the Leigh fans there, but Mr. Smith says that Mike Gregory was okay. So it's Tim of Harvey to Johnson. Johnson to Pinner. Pinner short ball. Clark's through the gap. Clark still going. Clark gets it to Johnson. Would Chris Johnson had been overrun by Shane O'Loughlin, otherwise it would have been the score to Leigh. Phil Johnson up the blind side, goes on his own. Ian Jeffrey goes to Acton half-back. Tim of Harvey to Pinner. Pinner short ball to Ruane. Ruane still going. Ruane gets the ball away to Tim of Harvey. Steps inside. Evans kicks on and the ball goes dead. Another let off for Warrington, but Leigh are looking extremely dangerous every time they get the ball now. Warrington about to make a substitution. And it's Captain Mike Gregory going off to be replaced by Barry Peters. Mike Gregory going off with what looks to be a shoulder injury. And it would appear that Joe Rapati is going into the second row. And Barry Peters comes over and goes on the right wing. So Warrington bringing the ball away through Kevin Tamati. Roskell to Sanderson. Roskell to Crompton. Crompton to Woods. Woods evades the challenge of Cottrell and Dean, was finally tackled by Dave Ruane. Mark Roskell to Martin Crompton. Crompton steps back inside. Steps back inside Clark. Still going Martin Crompton. Finally tackled by Ruane. Goes back to David Lyons. Lyons with the kick. Goes along the ground. It's fielded safely by Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson tries to run around McGinty and Cullen, but he's well tackled by both of them. Chris Johnson. Tackled by Roberts. Evans. Evans still going. Evans. Finally brought down by Joe Rapati and Billy McGinty. Rapati tries to drag the ball back. It should be 6 more tackles to Leigh, which it's no indication from referee Smith, so Leigh can count themselves somewhat unfortunate. Indeed, 6 tackles, says Mr. Smith. Phil Johnson. Johnson puts the ball up high. Taken safely by Mark Foster. Foster runs straight at McCulloch. And the referee's in very quickly. I think going to be a penalty against Neil McCulloch for throwing a punch on Mark Foster. Indeed it is. David Lyons puts the ball safely into touch. So Mark Roskell to tap the ball on the halfway line, on to Crompton. Crompton hands on to Tamati. Tamati evades one challenge. Tamati still going. Crompton to Woods. Woods short ball to Roberts. Roberts. And it's a penalty against Phil Johnson for stealing the ball in the tackle. Today's attendance just been announced as 3,620. David Lyons puts the ball midway inside the league half. Crompton onto Sanderson. Sanderson takes play up. He's tackled by Evans and by Clark. Roskell onto Crompton. Crompton to Tamati. Tamati's tackled by Dunn and by Cottrell. Woods. Crompton dummies. Crompton on his own now. Half break there from Martin. Crompton couldn't quite get the ball away to Joe Raparty. Roskell to Woods. Woods on to Roberts. Roberts straightens up. Roberts still going. Mark Roberts. Roberts. Finally tackled by Cottrell and by Chris Johnson. Goes out. Tamati tries to get it inside. Cullen tries to kick the ball on. And it's taken safely there by Brian Dunn. So Leigh have possession for the first time about the last 5 minutes now. There's just about 5 minutes to go. Can Leigh produce a remarkable comeback, as indeed they did last season, which ultimately kept them in the first division? At the moment, they're pinned down on their own 25. Ruane to Johnson. Johnson on to Pinner. Pinner steps back inside. Pinner tries to slip the ball away. It's recovered by Ruane. Tumavavi. Tumavavi gets the ball away to Johnson. Johnson dummies. It's tackled by Woods and by Cullen. Driven back in the process. But it's a penalty against Paul Cullen. Pinching the ball in the tackle. Safely into touch from Chris Johnson. It'll be Mick Dean to tap the ball. So David Evans, who promptly loses it. Kicked on by Mick Dean. Knock on, says Mr. Smith. Going to be a scrum down. Warrington man of the match being awarded to Mark Roskell. It's a scrum down with Martin Crompton to feed the scrum. It's a penalty against him for feeding, so it's a chance for Leigh to put the ball deep into the Warrington half. Chris Johnson puts the ball safely into touch. Midway inside the Warrington half. Dean taps it and goes on his own. Just inside the Warrington 25 now. Phil Johnson goes into acting halfback. On to Clark. Clark. He's tackled by Roskell. Dean to Johnson. Johnson, short ball to Evans. Dean to Johnson, on to Pinner. Pinner back inside to Cottrell. Cottrell now going for the line. Cottrell, the ball goes forward there from Cottrell. And it's fallen on by Paul Cullen, so missed chance there really for Leigh as David Lyons comes away with the ball. It's tackled by McCulloch and by Tumavavi. Foster steps back inside. He's tackled by Clark and by Tumavavi. Woods to Cullen. Cullen still going. Tackled by Clark. Tamati. He's tackled by Tumavavi and by Dean. Sixth tackle to Warrington. It's a loose pass there from Mark Roskell. Woods kicks it on, it goes to Rapati. Rapati puts the ball up in the air. Comes to Oro. Oro misses it. And it's taken by Rapati, so Warrington, 6 more tackles. Johnson, dummies, goes on his own. He's tackled by Jeffrey. Roskell to Woods. Woods gets the ball away to Roberts. Roberts is tackled by Clark. Cullen to Crompton. Crompton to Tamati. Tamati. There's about just over 2 minutes to go. 6 tackle once again to Warrington. Roskell to Crompton. Crompton on to Woods. Woods with the kick. Johnson picks it up. Chris Johnson. Well tackled by Brian Johnson by the help of Barry Peters. Oro to Phil Johnson to Ruane. Ruane steps back inside. And he's tackled by McGinty and by Cullen. Cottrell up the blind side. Breaks out of the tackle. Cottrell. Long ball to Johnson. Johnson to Evans. Evans is tackled by Roskell. And there goes a hooter. So the final score, Warrington 10, Leigh 6. A workmanlike performance there from Warrington. And the game was really sealed by that interception try by John Woods, picking up the loose pass from Phil Johnson, who went over in the corner. And really there's the only difference between the two sides today. Well, the final score, Warrington 10, Leigh 6.